Hey you guys, welcome back to my channel and welcome back to the last day of eyeshadow palette week. Today we are going to be doing my PALETTEWEEK eyeshadows update number 9. If you guys are new to this series, this was a series that was created by Lexi a couple of years ago. I will have her channel linked down below. It's been a couple years since she personally has done this project, but boy has this project taken off. There are so many people who currently participate in the PALETTEWEEK eyeshadows project, so if you're interested in seeing more content like this, just search hashtag PALETTEWEEK eyeshadows and you will have days of content to binge watch. I am really excited because I do have 3 eyeshadow pans to share with you guys today. There are some eyeshadows that we will be rolling out and I'm really excited to play around with some new shades because I felt like last update was just not a good one, and I'm really excited to play around with some new eyeshadow. I brought a ton of new palettes into my collection and I feel like I've been trying to test everything, so I haven't necessarily had time to dedicate a ton of time to my actual eyeshadows that I've been working on throughout this project, but we do have a couple of pans to share today. So if you're interested in my update, stay tuned. First, if you haven't already subscribed to my channel, I would love if you would consider subscribing before moving on. I do post a minimum of 4 times a week, and we do tons of project pans on this channel, and we chit chat a ton about makeup. So if that's something that interests you, don't forget to subscribe before moving on. And other than that, let's just jump into this update. Okay, so I'm going to keep you guys on your little toesies, and we are going to start with the least exciting progress, and the least exciting progress comes from my ABH Subculture palette. This has been in for a few months now, and I do have a stipulation that if an eyeshadow is in my project for at least 3 months and I've used it a minimum of 15 times, I can roll it out. Well, up until this past update, I had used this palette, and the eyeshadow that I'm working on is the shade Electric right here. I had used it 9 total times. I didn't use it at all last month. I was so bad about reaching for this, and I actually do like this shade. So I'm hoping I can just focus on this next month and hit pan on this. It is a really beautiful lime green shade, and I love me a good lime green. So I mean, this palette just also screams fall, so I just need to get my act together and reach for this, but I am pretty confident we could roll this out next update, but I didn't use that one at all this past update. Next up, we have my Color Green Queen of Hearts palette, and I rolled this in last update, and the shade that was randomly generated for me was this one right here, which is in the shade Crown, and I don't remember if I took pictures or not. I'm really hoping that I did, but I've been horrible at taking pictures so that I can update myself on my progress. There is a tiny dip going in here. I will post pictures on the screen so that you can hopefully see the dip. This is a really beautiful inner corner highlight, but I've been really lazy about reaching for this one too, you guys. I've only reached for this 3 total times, so shame on me. Again, I need to get my act together. This one, I haven't hit pan on any shades within this palette, so I'm not necessarily sure how deep the pans are, but I have been having a ton of fun playing around with mauve tones lately, and I feel like this is just a really beautiful inner corner highlight, especially with mauve tones, and even reaching into this palette, there's some mauves I can play around with. So I have a feeling it might be 2 more months before we're able to roll this one out, but I'm hoping to have more progress next update on this one to share with you guys. I've also been selecting a shade myself that hasn't been randomly generated from a spreadsheet or from a random number generator to work on, but I decided to switch it up last update and just choose a palette that I thought paired nicely with my color scheme to focus on, and I decided to work on my Tiny Marvels palette this last month, and I reached for this palette a total of 6 times. This is what this palette looks like. I think Mel did such a phenomenal job creating such a unique color story, and I've had a ton of fun with this one. The reason I've only reached for this one 5 times is because, again, I brought so many new eyeshadow palettes into my collection that I've been trying to test out, but I absolutely love this palette. I think I have used every color with the exception of this matte like pastel green shade up until this point, and I just think the quality in this is amazing. The shimmers are so stinking beautiful. I literally cannot, but I just thought I'd share this with you. I don't have any pan to report back from this palette. This is what this looks like. Again, I don't know if I took a picture of what the palette looked like before I started really reaching for it and what it looks like now, but if I did, I will show you the side-by-sides. And even though I won't be necessarily working on this palette within this project, I know I will still be reaching for this a ton in the coming months. That brings us to my Natasha Denona Gold palette, and the shade that was randomly selected for me in this palette was this shade right here, which is in the shade Aurora. Up until this point, I had reached for this palette a total of 5 times, and I did reach for this another 10 times this update, and it looks like I barely reached for this at all. I mean, you can see like a bit of a dip there, but it really doesn't look like I've used this at all. This is more of like a lid topper shade, but I've also been using this on my lower lash line with a more neutral look just to get some use out of this. I am going to exhaust my option to roll this out since it has been in this project for 3 months and I've reached for it 15 times. I just don't see myself getting a whole ton more use out of this, or at least not getting any sort of close to pan. So I'm going to be rolling this out. I didn't hit pan on it, but we are going to be rolling in a new shade to replace this. Then we have my Natasha Denona Mini Retro, and I hit pan on this yesterday. Oh, I was worried I wasn't going to hit pan on this before this update. I've been working on this shade right here in the shade Vintage Taupe. I've had this in my project for 3 total months now, and up until the last update, I had reached for this a total of 10 times. I reached for it an additional 6 times, and I hope you'll be able to see the little mini baby pan right there. I absolutely love this shade. I wish that they sold this shade as a single because I would buy it in an instant. It is my perfect crease shade for, or like transition shade for any mauve tone look. I have absolutely adored using this shade. I've reached into this shade quite a bit as well, and I now keep all of my Natasha Denona mini palettes like at my desk, very easily accessible. So even though this won't be in the project anymore, I anticipate I will still be reaching for this one quite a bit. Which brings me to my last palette. We have my ColourPop Baby Got Peach palette. This palette has pretty much been in this project all year round. This was in my project for quite some time, and I was working on this shade right here in the shade Get Even. I finally hit pan on that and then instantly rolled in this shade right here. My pans fill out, so I don't think things are in the absolute correct order, but this shade is in the spot Glaze It. I don't necessarily know if this is the actual shade Glaze It, but up until this point, I had reached for this shade 18 times. I reached for this an additional 3 times this last month, and I hope you'll be able to see there's pan. And then actually, last update, I rolled in 6 shades because I had rolled in this shade right here, which is actually the shade Hungry Ghost. It's in the wrong spot, but it is a pressed glitter. I only reached for this one time and I easily hit pan. I had already reached for that glitter shade a couple of times, so it wasn't like the first time I used it I hit pan, but as you can tell, I do have pan going in that as well. So I hit pan on 3 shades successfully this past month. I believe I am at 33 pans on the year, which is super, super exciting for me. I don't think I'll reach my goal of 50, but I would love to reach like at least 40 to 45 shades that I've hit pan on this year. Because I hit pan on this, the retro, and then the gold, we are going to be rolling in 3 new shades to work on, which I'm very excited for. So let me really quickly grab my Pretty Random app and let's see what shades we select. So I currently have, as up to date as my spreadsheet is, I have 1,087 eyeshadows to randomly generate. I still need to like really update my spreadsheet. I probably have more than that, but I've decluttered some too. So we're gonna randomly generate 3 numbers, and we get number 275, 934, and 414. So let's see what we have here. So number 275, number 275 comes from my Dominique Cosmetics Rustic Glam palette, and it is in the shade Moonchild, which I fear is either a purple or a blue. We shall see. And then we have shade 414, which comes from my Nabla Secret palette, which I'm super excited about. That is in the shade Contigo. And then we have the shade 934, $9.34 actually comes from my new Pat McGrath Rose Decadence palette, and it is in the shade Pink Champagne. So I'm gonna go grab those palettes and we are gonna see what we are officially working with. All right, first we have my Dominique Cosmetics Rustic Glam palette. I'm really scared to look at this, you guys. I'm waiting so that we can unveil together. I believe, what did I say? It was Moonchild or something? What Moonchild? Oh my goodness. Great. This is Moonchild. No. Okay, so this is like a navy blue with shimmer running through it. Yeehaw. The next one comes from my Nabla Secret palette, and it is in the shade Contigo, which is the second shade in the palette. I assume this is part of like that mauve tone row, so I'm actually really excited about this one, hopefully. Okay, it's not, well, yeah, it's kind of mauve. This is the shade Contigo, and it looks like I'm gonna get to continue to play with like mauvey gray tones. This looks stunning. Oh, I'm excited about this one, and it feels super, super buttery. That is going to be a great replacement for that vintage taupe shade. And then the fifth and final shade comes from my new Pat McGrath Rose Decadence palette, and it's in the shade Pink Champagne, which is this shade right here. I actually think that this one will pair really, really nicely with that. I did a horrible job at making room to swatch. This is going to pair super nicely with that Nabla Secret palette. Ooh, that's gonna be super, super pretty. So, kind of an interesting and unique color story. In terms of what palette I want to select for myself to continue to work on with this, give me 1 second. I'm gonna go dig through my palette collection and see what I think will pair nicely with this color story. All right, you guys, for the eyeshadow palette that I'm going to just focus on in general, I actually am going to choose my Natasha Denona Lila palette because, one, I don't reach for this enough, and two, I feel like some of the shades in here could pair really nicely, or I could have a lot of fun pairing them with my color story. So I am going to focus on my Lila palette alongside the other 5 shades that have been randomly generated for me, and we will see what we come up with for the next update. But that is going to wrap it up for today's video and for this quarter's eyeshadow palette week. Sorry if you can hear my washing machine in the background. I hope that you guys had fun. As always, leave any sort of palette week video ideas that you have for me in the comments down below. I love getting your guys' ideas and feedback on other palette themed videos. Let me know if there are any eyeshadows you have recently panned. I would love to hear from you guys. And other than that, thank you so much for sticking around to watch today's video and for supporting my channel. And I will catch you in tomorrow's video. Bye.